Hello, and welcome to Revamped, a rewatch podcast that revisits my top favorite shows and movies. I'm your host, Brandon Alexander, joined by my co-host,
Courtney Autumn.
Venture with us as we set our sights on the infamous Hellmouth to cover 90s cult classic, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Follow along from the beginning, spoiler-free, as Courtney views the show for the first time and I revisit the series for new takes and a fresh perspective on its narrative.
Each season, every episode, in order, we will follow Buffy Summers and her friends to examine their character development, the show's underlying themes, along with its major story arcs, all while engaging in conversations, sharing our own authentic thoughts and feelings to what's unfolding before us.
So sharpen your stakes, load your crossbows, and join us as we explore the supernatural world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Let's get into the episode.
Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. Long ago. I was half expecting you to like, Brandon, that's enough.
No,
Bring out-
I wanted you to keep going.
Bring out the tuba player.
Truly anything sounds better than Cordy.
Literally. All right, anyways. Hello, you guys, and welcome back to Revamped. Hope everyone enjoyed their day of thanks and had lots of turkey and mushy peas. We're back this week to talk about potentially the craziest episode of Buffy this season, and possibly one of the weirdest in the series. Season 1, Episode 9, The Puppet Show. This episode was written by Dean Batali and Rob Desautels and directed by Ellen S. Peressman. All three of these motherfuckers were on some weird shit with this one, and I'm confused by it because this is the second episode written both by Dean Batali and Desautels, because they wrote Never Kill a Boy on the First Date, and it doesn't even compare to the level of crazy the script of the story has. It's like polar opposite to Never Kill a Boy on the First Date. So I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Same.
I didn't understand at all.
Question, how is Desautels spelled?
D-S and then capital H, like the word hotel.
Oh, okay.
Like it's a hyphen.
Oh,
like,
Desautels. Okay, I see. Because you know my mom's last name is Desautels.
is it really?
Yeah,
Oh,
but
that's
it's like
right.
Desotell. There's no
Oh,
H.
that is right. It is. It's not the same.
Because we were
Manuela.
always like, Manuela Desautels.
Oh, yeah, true. I also recently found out this episode was inspired by the movie Child's Play, and it definitely gives those kind of vibes. I'm thinking back to
Big time.
Sid, which I'll talk about it more, whenever I talk about it. But this shit was killing me in general. I will say that probably about 7 more times, or 8, or 42.
Same.
Across. This show is funny as fuck. But speaking of, in this episode of Buffy, leading up to the high school's talent show, Buffy and the gang find themselves forcefully enlisted to perform by the new principal, Snyder. And that's not even the worst part. Mysterious murders are occurring and the victims' bodily organs are being harvested. They must work together to figure out who's behind them, with fellow talent performers Morgan and his possibly non-inanimate dummy, Sid, quickly becoming their #1 suspects. The first half is one of the most hilarious openings to Buffy I think I've ever seen so far, especially, and maybe even across the series, as I was saying, but definitely the funniest episode in season 1. It was on some shit. The humor surrounding the talent show as performers and poor Giles being the ringleader of the high school's event, I was dead. Laughing every 2 seconds. This episode surely wasn't hosting a talent show, more like a talentless show, because it did not have a lineup worthy of anything, which is funny because I wrote that out in my thoughts initially, and then I did the script, and Buffy all calls it the annual talentless show. And I was like, do I just be remembering this stuff and I'm just saying it like it's new and I'm creating it? And I'm like, no, Buffy literally says it because that's the second time this happened to me. And I'm like, all right, great. But
It's embedded in your brain.
it's literally embedded so far in my cranial cortex thingy-majigger. My medulla oblongata and my pituitary glands are all Buffy the Vampire Slayer at this point.
We can put you in that contraption and chop it right on out of there if you
Oh,
want.
shit. All right. Just call me Giles. Just call me Rupert. Like Jenny calls him Rupert. I miss Jenny.
Yeah.
We won't be seeing her this episode, unfortunately.
So sad.
Who knows? Also, non-spoiler alert, apparently everything that ever claims to be annual on this show is not so much annual as it is non-existent again on the show that they have the talent show, just like the fumigation party and Angel. I feel like I can say that as a spoiler alert because I don't want you going through, all the way to season 3 and being like, all right, they about to graduate high school. Are they going to do another talent show episode? I'm like, no, they are not.
I would be looking forward to it every damn season. I'd be like, oh, where's the talent show at this year? What they going to do?
Regardless, in this talentless line of performers, Cordelia can't sing, Mark can't perform a lick of magic, and Willow at the end is most likely speaking for every one of us with her onstage fright. And Morgan better be thankful Sid could talk on his own because he seriously needs to stop ventriloquism ASAP. Like, for real. It does have a good story, though, that we're going with, and a threat this week that we haven't seen before, but it's crazy how one day can't go by on the Hellmouth without something seriously wild going on. Every event at school has to be a mystical event, and this time it's the talent show.
I just wonder, like, at what point, after how many events, just as, like, a regular student and not a part of Buffy's friend group that, like, really actually knows what's going on, and you're just, like, a regular person going to school realizing some shit's going on at school every day. Like, at what point do you wake up in the morning and say, you know what, I don't think I'm going to go to school?
You know what? Actually, I think I'm going to move out of Sunnydale.
Yes, or that, like, let's go.
Because they just trying to hang out at the Bronze in episode 2, and they got a whole fucking coming up there talking about, hello, no need to be alarmed. Actually, there is cause for alarm. And they're like, I'm out. Like, I ain't going to the Bronze no more. I'm going to save my $5 admission, and all the day. Get out of Sunnydale. Everyone, get the fuck out.
Stop going to school. Stop going out.
Listen, though, I was excited because in this episode, we get the introduction of new principal, Mr. Snyder, played by Armin Shimmerman. That's known for his role on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, playing a character named Quark, which I never watched it, so I have no clue who the fuck this is. But I did have to look up a picture of him, and just so you know, this is what he looks like. Like, them ears.
I am dead.
Them ears are hearing everything. If you guys have your phone, Google real quick, Armin Shimmerman, his character Quark from Deep Space Nine, Star Trek. Oh my God. I was dead. Not only is he using 1990 bronzer,
what is that?
He's got that
First
fake
off,
orange tan. He's Ross from that episode of Friends where he keeps getting double sprayed. And then them teeth, looking like my sister Sarah when she was 8.
The teeth. Brandon, how have you not said anything about his nose? What's going on there?
It's ribbed for your pleasure, mate.
And he kind of looks like Sid.
Literally worse, but exactly like him, essentially. Either way,
Gosh.
I thought his makeup looked interesting, to say the least. But also, I'm sorry to you for the fact that Giles was not given the title of new principal, as you thought, mate.
I know, I was really sad about that. And then he's like, I don't know, he seems kind of like a Nazi principal. So I was like, oh, great.
Oh, shit.
We went from like a really like helicopter annoying principal to this guy who's like, we're going to implement structure and everyone's going to get pissed the fuck off and I'm going to be happy about it.
Are these basically your initial thoughts on Principal Snyder?
Yes.
What was he giving for you, other than
That's what
Nazi
he was giving.
principal?
He was giving Nazi concentration camp vibes.
He's complete polar opposite to Flutie, which he states and we'll talk about later. But like,
yeah,
seriously,
Totally.
Snyder, he's here to be some problem causing. He's out with them eyeballs and them ears to be watching everything. He took his energy from Quark on Star Trek, and he was like, I'm Snyder now, but I bet Ellie be listening to everything, and I got my eyes set on you, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. All right, I'm dead. I'm done.
Maybe he's got a chip on his shoulder because he's so white now in comparison to that tan he was rocking on that thing he showed me.
A whole ass Dorito, not even a chip. Spicy sweet chili. Just kidding. You know he's the nasty spicy nacho ones. Because
he's the basic ones.
He's spicy. All right, cool. Anyways, Sid's voice was played by a character named Tom Weiner. He did perfect, I will say, at doing the acting role, and he also reprised his role for the video game, which I'll talk about later, but he nailed that 1930s tough-talking gangster type vibe like that he had going. But for now, I'll say this one's truly like a fever dream after smoking a shit ton of weed, and I'm so excited to get into it with you as I'm super stoned right now to speak on it. I've been hitting my pen. I saw you come in hitting yours, and I was like, all right, great, the mood's here. But anyways, do you have anything extra to say, like, on your initial thoughts of the episode before we get into it?
I mean, like you said, it was the most like bizarre, really start to finish for me because the ending was just as wild as the beginning, if not more so. And the whole episode was just giving like borderline bad acid trip.
We've moved straight from the smoking of the weed and the fever dream to full-on acid trip. Yes. All of the scenes without Sid were the fever dream from weed, and every time Sid was on the screen, that was when the acid was kicking in and you were having your trip.
Yeah. It was when the bad trip was taking over and you're like, oh shit, get me out of here. But also there's something about, like, I will say this, and it's so random, but because you mentioned Child's Play, I have to say it. Because the episode was giving that, and I already said that out loud while I was watching it. but I never could take Chucky seriously, like as scary or whatever the fuck as it was supposed to be. I never could take it seriously because it's a doll. And it's the same thing with this episode. I've noticed there's this element. If it's a doll, unless it's Annabelle, I'm not probably going to get freaked out. Like, I just can't take it seriously. I use it, you're stabbing me and you're fucking 2 feet tall. Get out of here.
Damn, I gotta be scared of Annabelle because she got that spirit attached to her, so it ain't even really the doll doing anything. It's all the fucking energy of the damn spirit fucking...
Yeah, no, that's the one I would be scared of.
Yeah,
it's all
no, I
the
got
other
you.
ones. I'm just like, I don't know.
I think I mentioned it later on too, since we're talking on Sid in the moment right now. The Goosebumps show from the 90s, Night of the Living Dummy. It almost looks just like Sid, like the dummy itself. Like
They were
Google
like,
it.
I'm going to use the same one.
I think that's where they got the inspiration, though, for Sid in general, was like from Flappy the Dummy.
Starts with an S. Oh.
Look at that
Yeah.
Principal Snyder. Yeah, but like...
They morphed the episode. They took the inspiration for Principal Snyder and the dummy from that.
I don't know, but these dummies, like ventriloquist dolls, they give me the ick at like any point I see them. There's that movie, Dead Silence.
Oh,
You remember that? Yeah, like that movie. I don't
Mhm.
know. Anything with a ventriloquist doll is going to trip me out. This is obviously the least
Yeah.
scary because it's so funny across the episode. But like you said, Annabelle or any of these other doll-like creatures, like especially the ones that people are miming and putting their hand up and making it talk and come to life. Like, I don't think I'm into puppetry at all in
Mm-mm.
any way, shape, or form. Like, it
It's
doesn't
just
actually
so
scare
weird.
me.
It's just weird. Yeah, and like you said, I guess it's the element of the dolls too that have the movable mouths and stuff, where I'm just like, no, you could be talking on your own at any given moment. I don't have time for that.
AKA Sid. I guess here we should go ahead and jump into it. Wish us luck,
Yes.
everyone.
In every generation, there is a chosen one. She alone will stand against the vampires, the demons, and the forces of darkness. She is the Slayer.
All right, here comes your favorite part. We open on a black and white low camera angle, watching a girl stretch in ballerina attire as a heavy-breathing voice begins to say in a creepy-as-fuck voice,
I will be whole. I will be new.
and the tone switches back to real-life color, and the camera begins to pan around to see what looks to be a stage in the auditorium. This fucking music. Like, oh, hell no. Creepy
Very
as shit
fitting.
already. Over the course of this shot, we hear a person consistently calling out their do, re, mi, mi, mi's, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Warming up, of course. One boy is seen juggling balls. A girl practices a violin. We peek behind some curtains to unveil another girl on a tuba, a magician pulling items out of a hat, and we close on a male rubbing his headache away as a ventriloquist dummy sits upon his lap. This transition is quickly ended, by Cordelia Chase herself taking the stage to practice her ballad of Whitney Houston's The Greatest Love of All. As she screeches out the lyrics,
Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadows. If I fail, if I succeed.
keyword screeches, we pan over to Giles sitting in the auditorium seats witnessing this atrocity and fairly unhappy looking. Cordelia thinking she's crushing it, and Giles' face quite visibly stunned in horror, now realizing bat sonar isn't so bad and this is actually akin to having one's teeth drilled. He silences her. He's had enough. Thank you, Cordelia. He says, shut the fuck up. Get the fuck off the stage. He's like, that's going to be lovely. At least he's being nice. Giles is so pleasant.
I know.
But he says that to her, and she halts, looking at him, declaring,
But I didn't do the part with the sparklers.
he looks again terrified, because we all should be terrified if this bitch is trying to bring sparklers up anywhere. She's got that shit in her hand, and I've never noticed either. I was like, how is she going to light that in the middle of the performance? Also, this is like your literal rehearsal. Not even a rehearsal, sorry. This is your, your like
audition or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
and she had brought the fucking sparkler. She's like, I need this. This is what's going to seal the deal. But like,
She's
no.
like, I want to be Buffy and burn the school down.
Oh, literally. That's how Buffy did it. She did it at a talent show with the sparklers. There wasn't vampires or asbestos. It was just she was performing.
That's why she doesn't like the talent show.
We'll find out. He assures her that they can get into that when they do dress rehearsal, but for now, she must move off the fucking stage because his ears may start to bleed. He calls out for the next student, Lisa, our girl on the tuba, to come out. Please, he requesting beggingly. She begins to play some notes, and Giles motions his hand to his eye to press them of slight relief to get his headache gone he's experiencing, clearly being in the position to direct the high school's talent show. At this moment, Buffy, Willow, and Xander come walking up and taking seats around him. Calling out to him, Buffy says, "If it isn't the great producer," Xander adding, "Had to see this one to believe it." "Oh, you three," he exclaims tirelessly, flipping his glasses back on in order to concentrate. Buffy asks, "The school talent show. However did you get the honor of this primo assignment?" He gives a verbal non-thankfulness to their new Führer, Mr. Snyder, letting us know Principal Snyderman gave it to him so he could have more contact with the students. Him saying his choice of librarian was a deliberate attempt to minimize said contact with the student body, but that didn't win over the argument. Buffy, poking fun at him to rephrase the Slayer's speech, tells him,
Giles, into every generation is born one who must run the annual talentless show. You cannot escape your destiny.
She finishes placing a hand on the back of his shoulder for comfort, not really for smartassery. He disregards her for a lack of help and not for participating to make his life easier. Her stating she prefers to take on the traditional role and watch. I thought that was cute because he's a watcher. She's like, she wanted to take on his traditional role and be a watcher. She's like, I'm done being a Slayer. You kill him. Episode 1 all over again. Xander and Willow adding, mocking and laughing will also be a part of this. They all chuckle, Giles pursing his lips and looking onto the stage to ignore them. Buffy suggests they better leave him alone so he can do business that he calls show. They get up to leave, but as they turn toward the exit, we all get to meet Principal Snyder, who stands there before them, having overheard them taunting Giles. He questions,
So, we think school events are stupid, and we think authority figures ought to be made fun of.
Buffy promising,
No, we don't. Well, unless you do.
to which they'd followed his lead. Furrer. I didn't have that, but that was a fun little, look at me.
And we think our afternoon classes are optional.
And how the three of them were absent midday prior and left campus. Buffy, for some reason, starts to tell him, yeah, but they were fighting a demon. And I'm like, Buffy, really? Like, are you just like, what is happening? Are you this freaked out by Principal Snyder that you're just about to all tell him this? She got the whole word demon out. And then Willow nudges her in the back and she's like, shut the fuck up, Buffy. What are you doing? Why are you not on your P's and Q's right now? Like, we got the P for principal right in front of us. You need to calm down. He stops at the word fighting, questioning her choice of phrase. Not fighting, she says. Xander filling in that they left to avoid fighting. Snyder calls them real antisocial types and how they need more integration at the school, and how he just found 3 new eager participants for the talent show. What? Buffy states, in shock. No, Xander alertedly follows, Willow concluding nervous and wide-eyed as hell. Please? Poor Willow. Willow's like, no, anything but this. Like, I'm good. Please no.
Me.
Lich. All of us. Giles behind them leans against his hand, smirking with joy, looking oh so happy at this interaction. Buffy tries apologizing profusely, but he is having none of it.
My predecessor, Mr. Flutie, may have gone in for all that touchy-feely relating nonsense, but he was eaten. You're in my world now. And Sunnydale has touched and felt for the last time.
Starting to walk away, Xander tries to convince him that detention sounds more like the appropriate solution of punishment, and maybe they'll also see the core 4 assholes over there when they're hanging out detention, since they're stuck there for like literally ever. That's where they're at the whole episode, so we don't ever see them again. They're just always in detention. That's where their classes take place. He turns to look at them, throwing their words back at them with one final statement before leaving them. I'm sure the 3 of you will come up with a wonderful act for the school to watch, looking to Buffy, and mock, looking to Xander, and laugh at, closing on Willow. No, Xander calls out as he takes a seat again. Buffy whining as she moves to sit back beside Giles, who is still pursing his lips with glee. She looks over at him and then he stops with the face because he's like, oh, can't let her know I'm paying this much attention. And he begins to write on his pad, thanking the tuba player for her audition. Now we see the student with the dummy approaching to take a seat and do his audition. Buffy commenting, dummy. Willow taking a seat behind her to say she thinks dummies are cute. Must be why she likes Xander. But Buffy doesn't. They give me the wig. Ever since I was little, she tells Willow. What happened? She asks, Buffy simply saying,
I saw a dummy, it gave me the wig. There really wasn't a story there.
And here we get our first little wig watch because we're always watching for when they got the wigs. They always got to say it in some way, shape, or form. The student introduces himself to the audience that he is Morgan.
And I'm Sid.
He says as we clearly see his lips move and immediately realize his act is a shit show. He has no idea how to ventriloquize. He goes on to attempt some jokes.
As a matter of fact, it is. It's also a wood nose and a wood mouth.
Buffy looking so unamused. Giles removing his glasses again to look down at yet another talentless student. He tries to continue with his act when Sid begins to talk in a new voice Morgan hadn't been giving him, stating, "All right, time out. Let's stop this before someone gets hurt." I didn't know I was going to be imitating Sid this episode, just saying. I literally have no idea, but I guess I'm going to do this.
I like it.
Looking over to Morgan, continuing,
"Kid, you are the worst. Even I can see your lips move."
Morgan is looking around at this occurrence, and we assume that this is part of his act because now it got good, and we can't see, I put it in quotations, see him throwing his voice any longer because he was literally doing a suck job at fucking doing it earlier. But now he's doing perfect, as we would go to believe. You know, Buffy and other kids start to laugh, actually finding his audition funny. Giles brings his attention back, and Morgan talking to Sid.
Come on, Sid. You're spoiling my act. I worked on these jokes for weeks.
Sid saying back,
"You call those jokes? And how his jockey shorts are made of better material. And they're edible."
I'm like, ew, your underwear are edible? Okay, calm down, dummy. No wonder Buffy's scared of them. Causing the room to laugh together, Morgan perks up and smiles that he's putting on a good act, finally. Thank God for Sid saving his ass. Giles remarking, "There, you see, I'm sure the three of you can come up with something equally exciting." We leave the auditorium and are in a locker room where the girl who had been stretching upon the episode's open is finishing up changing, closing her ballerina fit in a locker. She hears a creaking noise and calls out if anyone is there, because, you know, that's what they all do in horror movies. She moves around the set of lockers. "Hello," she calls out again. Seems to be empty as we get a low camera angle and black or white point of view again, following her feet. She calls out one final hello as the camera rushes to her. She turns around and screams loud. We fade to black. Obviously, she's been attacked, and the creepy voice states, "I will be flesh." And we get our favorite part of the episode. Cue the Buffy theme.
Bow, now, now, now. Wow. Da na 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 na. All right, great.
Back in the auditorium the following day, we see Magician Mark attempting to perform again said magic, trying to pull a rabbit out of a hat. We soon realize along with him is empty, and he becomes panicked, asking if anyone's seen the rabbit. There's just a rabbit loose on stage. Now this motherfucker brought a whole ass. He went to the flea market, got a rabbit, and then lost the shit on stage. Okay. That's right. I used to get rabbits when I was a kid. Like, I had one.
I was letting you know you're from Sumter.
I literally had a rabbit one time. I didn't get it at Petco because we didn't have one. So we went to the flea market, and I got one for like $10.
Exactly.
And I got a cage for it, and I had it for like 6 months. And then it was loving to climb up the fucking gate rails and do backflips. And one day I did a backflip and landed on its food dish and broke its back. And then I had to bury it in the yard because the next day it died.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's literally so crazy. Anyways, we see a lot of the same student performers, only this time Buffy, Willow, and Xander are rehearsing a dramatic reading. Xander exclaims he cannot do this and walks off and takes a seat with them on the side of the stage with only half of his pride. Willow trying to tell him that this is their easiest way to get through the show. It doesn't require actual talent. Him informing, but they actually do have talent. We can do stuff, surely. He looks to Buffy. "What, you want me to slay vampires on stage?" she asks. She's like, "I can do that. Yeah. Gonna tell everybody my secret. Everybody already found it out anyways. Not like the whole school don't notice regardless with everything going fucking weird every week and you at the forefront of it. But whatever." Willow saying maybe in a funny way. He looks to her and says that she can play the piano. He's looking at Willow to say this, by the way. Buffy learning this info questions that she can in fact play. Willow offering a little, Buffy saying, "Well, we could do that, and we could accompany and maybe attempt to sing." Willow grows alarmed at the fact of performing in front of actual people and quickly withdraws the fact, saying,
Oh, in front of other people? Then, no, I don't play.
She's all scared and shit. She took that back real quick. Near them, Sid calls out, "Look at the goodies," with a creepy whistle. Willow moving over to Morgan to commend him on getting really good with his ventriloquism, asking where he came up with that voice for Sid. Him stating it's kind of an imitation of his dad. "Sounds real," Buffy chimes in. Sid saying,
"It is real. I'm the one with the talent here,"
nudging his head to Morgan, saying,
"The kid's dead weight."
then suggests that him and Willow
So do a little rehearsing on their own.
hey, Xander snarks, and Sid says back,
"You know what they say, once you go wood, nothing's as good."
I can't.
I'm so dead. My voice keeps cracking though, and I'm fucking it all up, but I don't care. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Buffy states to Morgan,
Okay, Morgan, we get the joke. Horny dummy, ha ha. It's very funny, but you might want to consider getting some new shtick. Unless you want your prop ending up as a Duraflame log.
to which Sid side eyes. I wrote in here as a joke, he Sid eyes. You get it?
I love it.
I told you this episode was going to be unhinged. Morgan and he look back at each other. That shit was funny, though, because, like, Sid looks out the corner of his eyes over at Morgan, and I was like, oh, shit. And, that's not him making her do that. I mean, in reality it is, but it's actually Sid being like,
He said, oh, shit, we got to get out of here.
Giles and Principal Snyder enter the auditorium, him going on a tangent to Giles about kids today needing discipline, an unpopular word these days, and how Flutie would have said kids need understanding.
Kids are human beings. It's the kind of woolly-headed liberal thinking that leads to being eaten.
Giles trying to suggest it's more complex than that. Snyder goes on to state that this place has a reputation, listing off various occurrences like missing people, suicides, and spontaneous cheerleading combustion. Obviously giving a call out to Miss Fabulous Amber from episode 3 Witch, and how they can't put up with that. You have to keep the eyes on the bad element, like those three, looking over to Buffy, Willow, and Xander. He finishes his statement that he will be seeing a different Sunnydale. All right, this is called Honeydale now. He will be seeing a different Sunnydale High. It's going to be a tight ship, clean, orderly, and quiet. Just as we cut to a girl screaming in the locker room. Cutscene transition magic. Having found the ballerina's dead body in there from the previous day. We clip to see paramedics wheeling out the uncovered remains. Yeah, they're just showing the dead body, just telling there. They're wheeling out her covered remains on a stretcher, Giles following behind them, having gathered some info. He moves under some caution tape to join the gang standing nearby. Well, at least this time around, they actually called some cops that are doing something, because in episode 1, they just canceled the gym class and the school day went on. Like, Cordelia comes out there, they're like, they canceled gym, so you won't be meeting Miss Foster, the coach with the chest hair. I wonder how Miss Foster is and her chest hair. Anyways, he informs the three that Emily was found dead. Xander is claiming that he hates the school. Well, Xander needs to take your advice, actually, and he needs to not come back, because if he hates the school so much and he hates all this going on, just don't return.
What's what I'm saying? Opt out.
Bye, Xander. You're not on the show anymore.
I know.
Giles suspects it happened after dress rehearsals. She was supposed to show up at a cross-country meet. Buffy asks if it was a vampire. He does not suspect it was, telling them that her heart was removed. Willow yikes, and Buffy asks if that means anything to him besides yee. He goes on about how various demons that feed off human hearts. They look over to see a knife being bagged by the corners as the murder weapon. Buffy stating, but demons have claws and teeth. Xander commenting they got no use for a big old knife. They come to the conclusion that the evidence is pointing to this likely making their murderer human. Buffy reminds them that they're on a Hellmouth, mystical center of bullshit, and she is getting demon vibes, not so simple murder, especially because, heart removal. Giles states how a demon is pure evil and very simple, a person driven to kill. Well, more complex. Willow says,
creep factor is also heightened. It could be anyone. It could be me.
They all look at her assuring,
it's not, though.
Giles suggests they do some research, starting with questioning the talent show compatriots. One of them may have been the last to see her alive. We cut to the Scoobies, each questioning different performers. Buffy talks to the tuba girl, Lisa. Giles talks to Mark as he makes him pull cards, but not the card that Giles wants to choose. Pick this one, Mark says, because we know Mark is a shit magician and he needs to help him choose this shit. I was dying. I was like, oh my God, why is this in here? And Giles just like, okay. But he did see her talking to ... We cut to Willow with the juggler man, who picks up with the cutscene transition magic, infinitely better than Mark's magic, and never failing to say, the smart guy, that one with the dummy. What's his name? Morgan, Willow clues him in. Yeah, that dude. He was acting kind of strange, Willow asking strange how, as we cut to Xander looking miserable, pacing by Cordelia outside on the football field as she's in cheer uniform and walking by fellow cheerleaders practicing, going on and on about how this is such a tragedy for her. Emma was like her best friend. Xander quickly correcting her to say, Emily. I was like, oh shit. This was reminding me of that scene in Friends, though, when Rachel's sister keeps calling Emma different names and she can't understand Phoebe's name is Phoebe. And Phoebe walks up to her and she's like, Phoebe. And then she's like, why does she keep saying that?
No, she's like, why does she keep making that noise?
Oh, that's what it is. That's exactly what this is reminding me of.
Yeah, you're so right.
With Buffy, Lisa has arrived to also be talking about Morgan and how he's strange, rubbing his head a lot and moaning, especially the other day. Mark is also talking to Giles about Morgan, telling him that he seemed paranoid, looking around at everyone. It's definitely not me. I'm not the killer. Let's place it on Morgan. The guy talking to Willow saying he saw him arguing with his dummy, and we get our conclusion of everybody questioning the people. With Cordelia in the interrogation scene saying, all I can think is, it could have been me. Xander fed up saying to her, we can dream. Buffy, hot on Morgan's tail, enters the auditorium to look for him. Not to mention, totally looks hot in this leopard print dress, of course in short variety, and paired with the knee-high boots we love so much, a leather jacket, and this clearly visible addition of her hair extension to her ponytail, giving it some extra length. I looked at her ponytail and I was like, and when they see her in the bed later for her mom to basically tell her goodnight, she's got those 2 braids in and stop at her shoulders. I'm clocking you as a hairdresser. But I also looked it up and I realized at the same time frame that she was filming this, she actually had hair extensions in her hair because that was when she was playing her character on I Know What You Did Last Summer, Helen Shivers. And Helen had that longer hairstyle that she got chopped all up by the killer, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah. It got chopped all up and said soon on the mirror. And then she said, yeah, and then she died. Which is a tragic scene. We gotta cover I Know What You Did Last Summer, I guess, as a bonus episode one day. But that is the saddest moment. She's running down after being chased, to hell and back by the fucking fishermen. And she gets to the end and the parade's coming by and the fireworks are going off and it's illuminating the fucking tunnel that she can run through with all the tires. And she's like, I'm gonna make it out. And then she stops and pauses and turns around one more time just to double check no one's behind her. And when she turns back around, the fisherman's in front of her and he throws her in the bins and starts chopping her up. I was like, Buffy would kick your ass, man. This is Buffy. This isn't fucking Helen Shivers. I was like, where's her Slayer powers? But, she wasn't that way. But we'll get to that in another episode. Buffy sees Sid sitting alone, talking out loud with his back turned to her on the stage. He's speaking
right now, and you gotta be on the lookout. Figure out who's gonna be next.
Morgan comes out from behind the curtain asking, how are we supposed to? But takes notice to Buffy and stops in his words and his tracks, telling Buffy hi. As we can see Sid's face now side-eyeing, aka Sid-eyeing, toward Buffy standing behind him. Buffy offers him a hello, just standing there. He feels the need to explain that he was just working on throwing his voice and moves over to grab Sid. Buffy asking him if he noticed anything weird going on the day before, with Emily's, perhaps. Paracasas. Was she arguing with anyone? Did she say anything to you? She asks. He says no, that she was dancing. Well, yeah, she's a dancer. She's a ballerina. And that him and Sid were talking. Talking, Buffy points out. Him clearing up. I meant practicing, actually, because this is inanimate. This guy doesn't talk. What are you talking about? He opens Sid's carrying case, takes a seat, grabbing his head and moaning. She asks genuinely if he's okay, because, Buffy is the queen of vampire slaying and also kind-heartedness. Sid's head spins right around, looks angrily at her, stating,
sweetheart, he answered your question. Now leave him the fuck alone. He said, stay away from Morgan.
Like Malik did last episode.
This is none of your business.
All right, I'm done. Buffy gets snappy, telling Morgan, how about talking to her himself? He said all he's going to say. Sid snaps back at her. It's okay, Sid, Morgan says. I'm like, but how is Buffy not so clued in right now? We're done and places him into his box, folding his legs over his body. That is one of the creepiest things also about these damn dolls, that their legs just collapse over. And I'm like, I know he doesn't have actual feelings. Like if you were to break his arm off, he ain't going to be like, ow, because he's just a soul in the body. But I was like, the fact that I just felt like he couldn't breathe. And I was like, can you straighten his legs back out, please, or get a bigger box for him? Because I don't like that.
love it.
I don't like that. I just want him to be comfortable in his coffin,
Oh, shit.
Either way, Buffy apologizes for possibly making him mad. Morgan looks at her saying, no, it's him. He closes the case as Buffy sees Sid staring at her, locking eyes with her as the case fully shuts. She flinches and shakes off the energy. Morgan leaves her standing. He doesn't clear this up at all. He just fucking leaves the auditorium. But he does say we have to go, and then he just leaves. Buffy saying to herself, cute couple. I'm like, all right, great. The three are seen walking into the library to meet with Giles as Xander's telling the next time someone else is on Cordy detail. 5 more minutes with her and they'd have another organ donor. Willow's saying everyone she talked to pointed their fingers at the same person. Buffy questions Morgan. They arrive at Giles and he states that he was also led to the same conclusion after his shitty game of cards with Mark. Willow and Xander exchange ideas on how they should go about bringing him to justice, Buffy cluing that all they have to go on is that he's a grade A weirdo, not that he's a murderer. Xander stating Guy talks to his puppet, Willow adding, and for his puppet. Buffy gets back on her it's a demon theory, Giles saying he's been looking into that, but his research has been hampered by theater life as he carries out award trophies. Buffy reminding him of the scale of importance talent show versus murder, one being the bigger picture. Xander commenting on how they shouldn't perform, he just can't think straight. How could they with everything going on? Giles informs that, yes, he realizes, but they have Principal Snyder watching them closely because he's got them big eyes and ears from Star Trek, and he could make their life difficult. Her as the Slayer could not afford as such, and how they will find the murderer, but in the meantime, the show must go on. The show must go on. Every time I hear the show must go on, I think of the quote and the actual song from the movie Moulin Rouge, which is one of my favorite movies ever. Yeah, but anyways, the show must go on, meaning that they will have to go on with their act to not give Snyder any means to bat an eye at them. He says Buffy should watch Morgan, perhaps check his locker, see if something is there. Like a heart, Willow asks. Or something, he responds. Buffy exclaims, all right, great. Well, Willow moves to the computer to retrieve his locker number for her. Our next shot is later that afternoon. The school is empty, and Buffy cautiously moves into the hall containing Morgan's locker, peeking around for coast and clear action. She arrives at his locker as we see a small cracked door with a camera POV of someone watching her. She turns his locker dial a little to the left, a little to the right, looks around once more and then smashes her hand into it, smashing the locker right through the fucking mechanism into the locker, exposing a hole for her to just pop her little fingers through and open the locker. Why the fuck Buffy do this? Why? Because she has the combination that Willow just got for her. I mean, we know why she did it.
She's a vandal.
She likes to vandalize, especially get kicked out of her last school for the sparklers. But
it's funny, though, because I was watching this, and when the scene evolved, I was like, I already know Brandon's going to say something.
I mean, I love it. It's a great test of her powers and shows us more that the Slayer can do. And obviously we know that it showed that because we know Sid and fucking Morgan are watching from the hallway door that's cracked open. And Sid needs to think that she's the demon with her strength ability, like doing this. Is that they were like, how are we going to put this in the episode for him to like have Buffy on his trail so that way everybody can red hair each other? But how is at the same time, though, regardless of that being for the actual show itself, Buffy, you have the combination. Just take, does her locker look like this? Like, is her locker smashed in and she can just walk up and put her finger in and pull it open?
She starts to rifle through it when a hand grabs her aggressively and jump scares her to only find it's Snyder claiming school hours are over and she should be gone. She's leaving any minute now, she states, as he tells her that there are things he will not tolerate. Loitering on campus after school, horrible murders with hearts being removed, and also smoking.
Because, you know, we gotta beat in smoking. Smoking kills. Just wait till you watch the next episode. Buffy assuring him that she doesn't do any of those things, especially not smoking unless it's weed. Ever. He replies, there's something up with her, and he will figure it out. Looking to the locker, he asks, do you need something here? Her lying, saying a friend needed something out of his locker, and she was getting it out for him, out of his case. She opens the case that Sid should be in and sees it's empty. He must have taken it and forgotten to tell me, she says, closing the locker to Snyder. As we see through the cracked door, Morgan and Sid had been the ones watching the sitch. As I said a minute ago. In the auditorium, Sid sits on the stool while Morgan argues with him that he can't do it. It's the only way, Sid replies. I don't want, Morgan begins, but Sid cuts him off to say, she's the one. You saw what she did, how strong she is. I know, but, Morgan cries out. She's the last. Just this one more and I'll be free, Sid states. And of course, this is also red herring us as the audience watching this for the first time, that this motherfucker is the one cutting people's fucking organs out. Mm-hmm. Morgan claims that he will not be doing this shit, but Sid says, that I will. He's gonna do it. And then we get my favorite scene probably from the whole fucking show. At Buffy's home that night, her mom enters her room as she gets ready for bed, both in pajamas, to ask her how the talent show is going and that she's looking forward to seeing her act. Buffy alarm states that, no, she can't do that. She'd totally get stage fright. Joyce claims that she wants to be supported. Buffy saying if she wants to show her support and if she loves her, she will stay far, far away. Joyce asks if something is bothering her besides her fabulous debut, as she can tell the positive vibes are just not flowing. Buffy claims nothing. Just a lot is going on right now. Joyce tells her to get some sleep and leaves her for the night as Buffy gets into bed, reaches over to her bedside lamp and cuts it off. When the room goes dark, we see Sid's face in the window staring at her. Some time passes and Buffy's now fast asleep. We hear some creaking noises and pattering sounds. Buffy's eyes quickly open and she's alerted, and we see little legs run by her bedside. I can't even keep an eye see it in my head. She leans off her bed and looks underneath it to see nothing. But then when she lifts back up, her face meets Sid and she screams, pushing his body back away from her, jumping out of the bed, whose little legs are seen once more scurrying off. Just as Joyce comes in, flipping on the lights, asking, what's the matter? Buffy claims there's something in her bed, in her covers. Joyce moves over to the bed, looking through the sheets to find nothing. She's like, Buffy, you've been getting into my weed stash? Maybe Buffy had a nightmare, she poses. Buffy almost argues, but she said maybe she's right and apologizes for waking her up. Joy's saying it's fine. She was dreaming about bills. No, the other episode, she's dreaming or freaking out about the IRS. Just commenting to Darla talking about, oh, I was just hassling with the IRS. Come on in, I'll make you a snack, a.k.a. meat. And then now this episode, she's thinking she's dreaming about bills. Like, you ain't dreaming about the gallery. You ain't dreaming about you can't open boxes. You need Buffy to come downstairs and pry them open. Like, I don't know.
You're not dreaming about the positive vibes flowing?
No, she's having, for somebody who loves the positive vibes and trying to keep them flowing.
Oh, why are you dreaming about
She's
bills?
sure
That
dreaming-
sounds like a nightmare to me.
Dreaming about negative energy, delusional joy.
She's dreaming about her daughter being normal.
A dream never to come true.
No.
Anyway, she gives Buffy a forehead kiss and looks over at her open window, stating that she shouldn't go to sleep with that open, and leaves. Buffy looks over at it and says to herself, I didn't. Because she didn't. Sid did it. Because we all saw Sid in there running and pitter-pattering around. Flash to the next day at school where Mark practices disappearing acts with his assistant. Having her step into the Egyptian-themed box, he latches it shut, spins it around once, and then reopens the door.
And behold,
we see her still visible standing here, and he goes,
you were supposed to leave.
I think it's funny that every scene that restarts, though, and especially at the talent show, we get images of Mark, like, right in front of our face, just simplified right there in every single shot. And I'm just like, but we ain't catching it, but I already know. But I thought it was cute because, like, for him to be a fucking demon and all this other shit, he's talking about and behold, he's like, you were supposed to leave. And the way, like, Willow and Xander and everybody giggles in the audience that's watching it, I was like, cute. Anyways, he pushes it off the stage at his failed attempt of magician actuary. Cordelia comes in following after Giles, saying that she doesn't understand why she has to follow Brett and his stupid band. Giles is telling her once again because they need time to clear off the fucking stage afterwards, her enforcing that that would make the mood all wrong, how her song is about dignity and human feelings. She knows all about these, and personal hygiene or something. It's sappy, and no one is going to feel sappy after all that rock and roll that Brett and his stupid band will be playing. They must be singing that fucking song, Katie Don't Cry or some shit.
Fuck off.
He just stares at her, vision unfocused, as if he's reading her aura, and she scoffs.
What?
He focuses as if he's distracted, raising a hand, wagging a finger.
Oh, I'm sorry. Your hair.
She immediately brings her hands to her head to fondle her hair.
There's something wrong with my hair?
She touches at it, freaks out, and says,
Oh my god.
Leaving him to find the nearest mirror. He smirks, proud of himself for getting rid of her, saying to himself,
Xander was right. It worked like a charm.
That shit was funny as fuck. Cordelia, I was like, that's the best way to get her ass to probably leave a situation.
Yeah, for sure.
Buffy enters, meeting up with Giles, Willow, and Xander, asking where's Morgan. Giles saying he hasn't seen him. Xander asks if he's done something to her. She says no, it was Sid the dummy. They all just stare at her, and she remarks, okay, I know I realize that I sound stupid right now, but she thinks that he was in her room the night before. With Morgan, Willow asks. No, alone and alive, she says back. Xander is curious if she saw him, but she says no, but she saw something. It ran across her room and attacked her. Giles asking how. She tells him that it pounced on her face. Like a cat? Xander says. Yeah, exactly. She continues saying, but when she turned the lights on, it was already gone, thinking that it went out her window. Xander again saying, like a cat. Yeah. No, it was Sid, the dummy. Giles wonders if it was perhaps the fact that she had dummies on her mind, and Willow adds she did say that they creep her out. She goes on to say that she's not crazy, and of course everyone's doubting Buffy all the time, but why would you believe that a dummy was running around the room? Not because there's a Hellmouth and crazier show have happened. She's the Slayer, and she needs support. Willow takes this moment to say that there's Morgan, who appears with Sid nearby. Giles remembers that he has info on a possible demonic lead. He tells them about a reference that he's found to the Brotherhood of Seven, the 7 demons who take the form of young humans, and every 7 years, since they're the Brotherhood of 7, they need to harvest human organs and a brain and a heart, specifically, to maintain their humanity. Otherwise, they revert back to their less appealing form. Handing over a book, Xander looks at, showing a picture of one ugly-looking dude. Willow says, so human Morgan could actually be demon Morgan? But Giles replies he is not sure. The demons are very strong, and Morgan, who is looking ill and rubbing his head, again, is looking rather weak every day. At this time, we cut to history class where the teacher goes on about president. Pretty much everyone in the talent show is present in this class because, why would it be any other way? including Cordelia, Buffy, Willow, and Xander, and, of course, Morgan, who is sitting there with Sid propped up on his desk as Buffy just stares at the back of his head, watching him hard. Okay, but why is the teacher letting this dummy sit all up on her in her class on the desk while she's trying to teach? We know that's a distraction. No teacher would never let that happen, and it's so unnecessary.
But also, like, you're not even supposed to have your phone on your desk half the time. You're gonna let a full-ass dummy just sit there the whole time.
I mean, I am happy for Sid. At least he's not at the side of his desk, locked up in the trunk with his legs folded over him, uncomfortable. But
Brandon can't handle the legs.
I literally can't.
The compact legs.
As Buffy stares at the back of his head, Sid's head turns around to look dead at her. She looks away, trying not to make eye contact. He's like, I saw you in your room last night, but feels him staring, so she looks back over, and he just glares into her eyes across the room. At the desk next to Buffy, Cordelia leans over telling Buffy, looks like someone digs you. That's adorable. You and the dummy could tour in the freak show. The teacher asks a question to the class as Sid turns back to Morgan in the scene whispering to him. She calls on Morgan since he appears distracted because we know teachers love to do this. We learned it in Witch. He doesn't hear and he calls his name again, alerting him. He asks what? Sid's head turns to the teacher and states that Morgan has other things on his mind. The whole class laughs, thinking Morgan is fucking around. The teacher is displeased with this and moves to grab Sid, saying, give her the puppet. Morgan grows concerned, saying that, no, he'll put him away. He'll fold his legs and shut him in the box. It's okay. She lifts him up off the desk and puts him in her cupboard in the room, and she says that he can get him back after school. She begins to teach again, but Sid calls out from the cupboard, I'm still watching you. That is enough, the teacher demands to Morgan. Morgan, who has a serious fish face going on, looks disturbed as Buffy stares at him, taking notice. I feel so bad for Morgan in this moment. He ain't even doing nothing, and Sid getting him in all kinds of trouble, about to get him kicked out of school.
He's guilty by association.
Oh, fuck. I was like, how'd you even get this dummy? How did this dummy come to you? The sickest boy in the whole fucking school that's about to die in 5 minutes. Regardless if someone cuts your brain out or not. A poor Morgan all the way around. The day fast forwards and we come to the empty class where the teacher sits doing her work at her desk as Morgan enters quickly. He calls out her name, which we learn after all last scene is Miss Jackson. Because that's what I thought of when I heard it. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Anyways, you said you'd give me... Oh, of course, she stops. Remembering the earlier interaction, she moves over to her cabinet. But before opening it, she looks at him and says that she wanted to ask if everything was okay at home or here at school. He paces side to side, nervous, saying, oh, it's great. It's fine. It's awesome. I fucking love life. I just ate some Doritos and I'm going to go on and smoke a bowl. He also looks very tired, has dark eye bags, and is pale as fuck. He literally is looking weaker and weaker. Either that or he's just really stoned. She mentions that he has become a little detached. He's one of the brightest kids that she knows, but lately, he seems to not be all there. He is seen grabbing at his head, visibly shaking slightly. She goes on to say that he should try to not let other things get in the way. Okay, he blurts, cutting her off. Can I get Sid now? I really need Sid. I need Sid so bad. Please give me him. She turns to open the cabinet, but it's empty. She looks stunned at Morgan, saying, it's gone. Morgan starts wigging out, saying, gone? Where could he have gone? He starts looking around the classroom, saying, he knew to wait for me. He knew I'd be back. And he starts stressing the fuck out. The teacher confused asks, what do you mean he? Morgan looks like he about to beat Miss Jackson's ass. He said he ain't worried about making her daughter cry. He ain't about to apologize 1 trillion times. He ain't sorry, Miss Jackson, but he is for real. Now, where the fuck and what the fuck did she do with Sid?
Perfect time to insert Miss Jackson.
At the reunion. Anyways, for real, we cut to the library where Xander has his hand up Sid's back on his lap, making his head move around. Buffy and Willow walk in with Giles and a bunch of costumes. Buffy looks visibly disturbed as soon as she sees Sid asking, where did you get that? Xander saying he took it from Miss Jackson's cupboard. And he is for real. He knew that she said that she wanted to speak to Morgan alone, and now he should be, well, alone since Sid is with him. He moves Sid's mouth and says,
Hi, Buffy. Hi, Willow. Would you like to hear some off-color jokes?
Buffy is wiggy and says that she doesn't think that he should be doing that. Oh, what? Xander says.
I'm not real.
Buffy mad calls out, Xander, quit it. She hangs up the clothes that she's carried in, and we hear a small pounding. When she turns around, Xander is beating Sid's head over and over again on the counter, and here I laughed so fucking hard. I had to pause my episode because I don't know why, but them shits caught me. But he was like, same with the beat, he's not real. And I'm like, this poor Sid himself is real. And he's just letting this motherfucker beat his head on the... Why didn't he whip around and be like, yo, stop that? This action proving that he's just made of wood. And she should go on to find Morgan to talk and prove whatever he is. Giles saying he's probably looking for the puppet, Buffy leaves to go talk to him, telling Xander to watch the dummy. As Xander says in his Sid voice,
"Bye-bye now. I'm completely inanimate."
Once gone, Xander continues to play with Sid, shouting,
Red Rob! Red Rob!
giving us a pop culture reference and shout out to a quote from the popular movie The Shining by Stephen King. Willow asks what they should do with him, Xander saying he'll keep him company. Giles saying that they have their own hunting to do in the form of demon research, and him and Willow go off to do as such. Xander props Sid up in a chair at the table, turning his head away from him so that way he isn't distracted from the schoolwork that he's about to attempt to do at the other end of the table. Okay, but I want to touch base on this. I guess I wrote it in here and I'll just clip what I don't need, but this whole scene had me dying. In this moment, I do love Xander. I've temporarily forgiven him for the pack in times like this, and even like in I Wrote About You, Jane, from last episode when he fell off the fence. Just his normal goofy self, like especially with Buffy, his humor really is great, and he had me in hysterics on this one. Like I said, he was busting fucking Sid's head on the counter. The comedic timing that Nicholas Brendan has for his character is pretty awesome, and he does so well in scenes like this. And like as an actor, like he does really good as Xander. But this is the Xander that I like. This is the Xander that we want. Goofy teenage boy. I couldn't help but enjoy the scenes with him in this one. And thankfully we have some time before he truly pisses us off again. Because of course the time's going to come again. But for now, I'm happy to have him around because, like I said, this is the Xander that grows on us and makes me never want to have him discredited from the show. I just had to give him some little bit of love while I was thinking on it because the moments like this really do make me love Xander again.
No, I totally agree. And I didn't think that it would be true that he could kind of come back from the pack quite this soon. But like you said, there were a few moments already last episode and definitely this episode where I kind of already had that same feeling where I was like, all right, I can appreciate Xander for who he is, but he better not be pissing me off again the same way anytime soon because it'll be over after that.
It's Nick's the next slice. We cut to Buffy in the Torium, because that's what I want to call it now because I got tired of typing out auditorium. She calls out Morgan looking for him. She walks around as looming music plays. She goes backstage looking around further, can't seem to find him. Something runs behind her. She spins around to see some curtains moving, and then moves over to check behind them, and before so is jump scared by Snyder calling out to her asking, looking for something? Have you seen Morgan Shea? She asks. He ignores her question, but questions if it's safe for a girl like herself to be skulking around alone with everything that's been going on. She informs him that she was just leaving, because that's always what she's doing apparently when Snyder's around, and that she knows how to take care of herself, she says with a pointed eyebrow raise. Yes, Buffy, tell that motherfucker off and speak for women who can handle themselves, because more women need to like say some shit like this, because people always, especially for women, being like, oh, you need some help? Are you in distress? No, bitch, I can fucking beat your ass from head to toe. I'm Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like, the fuck? Bye, Snyder. Well, he eyes her and he backs away with an all right then and leaves. We get a flash to the library where Xander still works on some assignments, looking over at Sid every now and again. Back in the stacks, Willow approaches Giles saying that she's found something in the section on toys and magic. On rare occasions, inanimate objects of human quality such as dolls and mannequins, already mystically possessed of consciousness, have acted upon their desire to become human by harvesting organs. Giles saying Emily's heart, Willow concluding Morgan's dummy. Xander gets up to grab a book from the counter near him. We see Sid behind him. When he steps in front of the camera in this motion, he retrieves the book and moves out of the way of the camera. Back to the table, we see Sid is now missing from the chair. Xander sits back down, doing his work again, looks toward the chair and screams, jumping up into the chair. Willow and Giles hear this and run out into the library's main floor, asking, what is it? They see Xander standing on top of the table to remain out of reach of this dummy, if he's still around at least. He's gone. Sid's gone, Xander tells them. Willow and Giles audibly gasp, alarmed, dropping their books and looking to the floor quickly and looking all around at the floor in a panic. That shit was funny because Giles is like, he like drops the shit and Willow's just like skeezing, but like Giles' audible gasp there like took me out. I love Giles. We flash back to Buffy, still backstage, looking in prop rooms. We hear a creaking sound as she follows the sound once again, calling out Morgan's name. She looks behind some clothes racks to find nothing, moves behind another rack, and clearly trips on a leg. We see that's Morgan's body laying there dead on the ground. Here we got our 14th Sunnydale High student dead at the school. She begins to back out of the room, exclaiming, the demon's got himself a brain. When she's clear and in an opening, we hear a snap, and she looks above her to see a large iron chandelier falling down directly at her from above. The scene fades to black for what we would have as a commercial break, and when we come back from our imaginary commercial, Buffy is seen laying pinned underneath it, gaining consciousness back and looking through her point of view at a blurry room as her vision returns. We see and hear from above little legs scurrying around on the little, like the rafters up above, I guess you would call it. I don't know what those are, but so people can get to the lights and shit. And little legs come running across. I was like, oh God, there go the feet pitter-patting. She notices and starts to try to pry the thing off of her. Now on the same level as her, we hear the pitter-patter of the footsteps getting closer. She yells out, whoever's out there, I'm going to hurt you badly, saying to herself, if you'll just give me a minute. She struggles to get out, begins to try to lift it up. The ironwork is heavy as shit, apparently. Shifting her head to the side to see around her, when she turns her head out of the way, she indirectly misses a knife attack, and the knife stabs into the ground where her head had just been. We see Sid is dealing out his own attacks with this knife as he stabs at her again as she dodges it, pulling out a free arm and grabbing it and tossing him backwards across the room. This shit is comic as fuck. Y'all, is our Slayer really fighting a fucking dummy right now? This shit is killing me.
Same.
It's so funny, but so dumb, but has high stakes in this moment because a damn dummy is full force attacking her ass with a knife. And this has got to be traumatizing. Can she even take this seriously? Like, he's like swinging that fucking knife at her. And I'm just like, oh my God. And it's not even like his hand's not even wrapped around it. It's like super glued to his hand.
I imagined it like, you know, like some Barbie hands had like that hole. So you would like stick it in there.
Some Barbies, when they came in the box, they had the little piece of clear elastic holding the brush on their hand. He had the clear elastic on him. Okay, I'm dead. I hope that was a prop knife, because it was. Buffy finally manages to lift this damn chandelier off of her and slide from out underneath it. She sits up while his little feet run at her once again from behind as she throws an arm back, hitting him in his chest, knocking him back and into the wall. His knife sliding away onto the floor. She moves to him quickly on one knee, pinning him against the wall with her arm. You win. Now you can take your heart and your brain and move on, he tells her. I'm sure they would have made great trophies for your case, she snaps back. He tells her that would have been justice. She agrees, except for one thing. You lost, and now you'll never be human. Him replying, yeah, well, neither will you. The two look away from each other slightly, but then quickly back at each other, both at the same time stating, what? Extra. Sarah Michelle Gellar, we commend you. You should have got an award for this episode for sure.
Truly.
Our next shot is back in the library. We go from face to face of our Scoobies as Sid speaks to them, telling them his story. Giles, who looks on, stunned. Xander also in the background with a mouth drop. And we pan by Willow, who appears interested, and ending on Buffy, who is hella paying attention but still surprised. In this motion, he's been saying,
this is what I do. I hunt demons. Yeah, you wouldn't know it to look at me. Let's just say there was me, there was a really mean demon, there was a curse, and the next thing I know, I'm not me anymore. I'm sitting on some guy's knee with his hand up my shirt.
Willow asks, ever since then, he's been a living dummy? Sid replies that he should have listened to Morgan. He was right all along. He should have teamed up with Buffy, but he didn't because, Buffy completing a sentence saying, because you thought I was the demon. Him replying,
who can blame me for thinking? Look at you. You're strong, athletic, limber, nubile.
Do you know what the word nubile means?
No.
Forgot. Sexually attractive, sexually mature, old enough for marriage, but in a young woman's terms. And I was like, she is 16 years old, and you over here talking about how she's limber, nubile stuff. And then his eyes go all down, and he's like going into like a glossy, faded eye, like he's fucking borny as shit, and he's just like entering some other reality. You know, his little tiny 2-inch wood dick is fucking hard as shit, like dead.
Good thing to put into perspective.
Anyways, his eyes grow hazy, looking down, like I said, for a dummy, and he wags his head to refocus on the combo.
I'm back.
Buffy smirking, looking around at everyone. He continues on, now the demon's got both organs. He keeps his human form for another 7 years, letting us know Giles' research was spot on. Giles gets up, hearing his tea kettle start to whistle, stating, well, it's certainly nice to have someone else explain all this for a change. Sid confirms that there were 7 demons. He's killed 6 over time. If he can get the last one, his curse can be lifted and he'll be free. And how he's sure it's someone in that stupid talent show. I'm mad this dummy calling the talent show stupid. He said, did you hear that one bitch singing?
Yeah.
Buffy says, well, that means the demon will be moving on now. Sid saying, but if they can pin who's missing from the show, Buffy completing that they will know who the demon is. The show? Giles says alertedly, realizing that he's been sitting around here making tea and gossiping, realizing that he needs to be out there preparing for everybody to go on the stage because, the show is in fucking 30 minutes. He rushes out saying, "It's going to start. I'm supposed to be there." Buffy tells Willow to compile everyone in the show's addresses. That way, if the person's not there, that they can go check house to house. Sid telling Giles that he needs to get them all on stage. Form a power circle so they can see who's a no-show. Giles asks, "The what?" Sid saying, "Power circle. You get everyone together. You get them revved up for the show." Giles leaves and Sid asks the room, "How do you ever get that gig?" Noticing Giles is out of place for this. He's like Buffy. He's connecting all the dots, seeing the red flags, seeing everything that he needs to for a fucking piece of wood. We cut to the auditorium where Giles is backstage. It's loud with everyone rushing around to get ready. Calling out over the bustle, 15 minutes to curtain, everyone. Cordelia comes from behind a curtain telling him, she can't go out there. She's nervous. All those people staring at her, judging her, like she's some kind of Buffy. She never ever told me like I'm some kind of Buffy. I'm like, Cordelia, you can leave Buffy alone. For somebody that don't like this bitch, you sure got her name in your mouth all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm surprised she even knows her name since she didn't know Emily's name. She's talking about Emma was my best friend. Emily. Anyway, she goes on to say, what if I mess up? And he is a nice man, and he tells her that old adage of being nervous before a performance. And it could help to imagine everyone in the audience being in their underwear. She goes, ew, and cries out, even Miss Franklin? He looks at her, imagining it, and says, Pericissas, not. Perhaps not. He walks away from her, calling out once more that everyone needs to meet him on stage in 5 minutes for what he calls the power thing. And like, well, these students are looking around at you being like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? Some power thing. Like, okay, we'll meet you out there in 5 minutes, I guess. Except Mark, because he's getting high with this assistant out back. That's why she ended up sick. She got too stoned.
Up above the stage, Buffy and Sid sit on a floating railing.
That's what I called them, a floating railing. The things that they get up there to fix the lights with because it's up high. He is asking her what her deal is. He doesn't figure her for a demon hunter. She informs him that she's the vampire slayer. You're the slayer? He asks. She nods, smiling. He confirms that he knew a slayer in the 30s, a Korean chick, very hot. He speaks of her muscle tone and how they had some, quote, times. I'm like, oh shit, 1930 slinging that dick. All right, great. He said, I've had a slayer. He said, now time for you. She looks over at him slightly. He says, hey, that was pre-dummy times, all right? I was a guy. Like I said, he was a guy slinging that dick. Buffy bringing up again, so you kill the demon and the curse is lifted? That's the drill, he says, so you don't actually turn into a prince or anything. Your body, he finishes it for her, is dust and bones at this point. When he says free, he means dead. She states. He tells her not to get sniffly on him. He's lived a lot longer than most demon hunters, or slayers for that matter, because the life expectancy of a slayer is 1 year, 2 years if you haven't been electrocuted or killed by some other student at the school. Wait till episode 11. Offering, aka episode 12. Offering, of course, if she wants to snuggle up and comfort him, placing a dummy hand on her leg next to him. Her face grows sour as she moves his hand back to his side, exclaiming, so that horny dummy thing really isn't an act, is it?
Nope, he says, and then she replies, yuck.
They watch down below as Giles hollers out, okay, is everyone here? Forming into a circle. Sid comments, here comes the lineup. Quickly, Giles calls out again, power circle, let's all do the power circle. They're like, what the fuck was a power circle? He said, everybody get in the fucking circle. We're doing the thing. He has them all grab hands, and he looks around the room at all of them. Everyone seems to be present. Okay, that's it then. Everyone go finish getting ready, and everybody looks at him and like, bro, you just wasted our time. All the students leave. Buffy slips under the bar, leaning off the ledge, telling Sid to hold on as she hops down, falling to her feet from above, gracefully to the floor, landing next to Giles. Oh, that was beautiful. But also, that was really cool. She just dropped the fuck down from that high-ass thing and just, like nothing, like a cat.
Anyway, she lands next to Giles. No one's missing, he tells her. So the demon isn't in the show, she asks. Appears not, he starts, saying it's nearly curtain. I must get the show running. Buffy looks up, realizing Sid has disappeared.
She moves to go look for him. We see Snyder behind the stage in the shadows lurking around. Giles steps out before him as he disappears behind a wall. Giles following after him. Buffy, looking for Sid, stands by a table when some fluid drops onto her arm. It's giving Alien, like when the fucking monster's above you and their mucus is dripping all over your arm. You're like, what's that? When you look up, the monster eats you.
Yum.
That's what it was giving me. Yes, yums. Buffy has that shit dribbled on her, and she looks disgusted as more falls, and then she reaches up above her on the rack, above the table, and grabs at the shelf when a brain drops into her hands, and then she drops it to the floor, hopping back, yelping as it just jiggles on the floor. Well, there's the brain of Morgan. We cut back to the library where Willow is on the computer. Buffy paces around staring at both of her hands, commenting on how she's never going to stop washing them because, she touched a whole ass human nasty fucking dead brain. Xander wondering if Sid's been lying, but Buffy vouches for him, saying the demon's out there, but wondering why it would have rejected the brain. Wasn't Morgan a super smart kid? He was, Willow states. Check out all his grades. All A's, she calls out from behind the computer her and Xander stare at. She takes notice, though, that Morgan had a not-so-average amount of sick days in his school profile and how he was, out half the year. The school nurse files have a message saying, in case of emergency with Morgan, to contact a near-surgery doctor at the California Cancer Ward. Brain cancer, Xander asks? That's why he had all those headaches, Willow says. Buffy arriving at the conclusion that whatever is out there still needs a healthy, intelligent brain. Xander goofs about how he's safe. Buffy saying it's going to be looking for the smartest person around. The next smartest person around. Who could that be? And then they both eye Willow, the next smartest person around. But she's clueless, asking, what? We flash over to behind stage, Giles with Mark the magician, mid-discussion helping him set up his old-school-style guillotine, giving him calculations about how he can maximize the velocity before the point of impact of his blade, blah, 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 blah. Mark saying that, gee, Mr. Giles, you're really smart. Could you do me a favor? Before I even really go forward, the fact that these motherfuckers in this school will just allow weapons. We learned in Angel. Giles has a whole cabinet with quarterstaffs, crossbows, daggers, battle axes, just chilling in the caged locker. Buffy carries around stakes and drops them all over the fucking school for people to see. And now they got a whole ass literal real guillotine set up in the auditorium. Principal Snyder, ain't you supposed to be Snydering out here and making sure that you're this is why people showing up with no hearts and dead or missing or whatever the fuck's going on, because you ain't out here watching for students bringing up guillotines in the damn auditorium.
I guess I gotta retract my statement about him running a Nazi concentration camp since he's rather lax about what's going on.
No, it seems like he's running the Nazi concentration camp because he wants all the Nazi problems of killing people to be happening, apparently. We got our eye on you, Principal Snyder, man.
Did you think, though, for a second, I don't even know if you remember, because obviously you know these things going into watching the episodes, but did you think the first time you watched this episode that Principal Snyder might be behind some of this shit that's going on?
Absolutely, because he was, I don't think I've gotten to it yet, but when he's skulking around in the back and Giles, as him, or wait, I guess maybe
and he always just pops up, he's just been popping up, every time Buffy's doing something weird or trying to get away with something, he's there. And and just the way they placed him, I know they probably did that intentionally to throw you off and make you think 14 different ways. But yeah. So anyway, I just was curious about that while I was watching it. Because I was I wonder if Brandon was there ain't no way this is the principal, or we're going to get a new principal already because something's really going to happen to him if he's responsible, or I don't know. I was just thinking all kinds of stuff. So I was curious about that.
Literally, the first episode of Principal Snyder, they're going to kill him. Get him killed. Theme. I guess we'll see. Anyways, we cut back to Willow asking Buffy and Xander, what could a demon possibly want from me? Because at this point, obviously, they pointed out to Willow that she's the smart person that he might come after. Xander asking her, what's the square root of 841? And Willow looks at him stating 29 without even thinking. And then goes, oh, yeah. Well, duh. I realize now I'm actually the next smartest person. I'm all caught up. Let's do this. Buffy stating, don't worry. As long as you're here with us, the demon isn't going to get what he wants. In the same motion, we flash back to Giles and Mark as the blade drops on the guillotine, slicing a honeydew melon fruit in half. Might as well, because I can't stand honeydew, so please chop that shit up and get the fuck out of here. Honeydew, watermelon, and cantaloupe, y'all can keep that shit. Giles picks up the other half of it that got sliced and diced, saying, oh my. Pretty cool, huh? Mark says. Are you sure no one else could help you out? Giles getting nervous. Just at the attempt of, the trick part of it, the quote, trick.
Quote.
Mark saying, nah, brah, my assistant got sick. We was out back getting hella stoned, and I got her too fucking ripped, and now she's gotta head back home to eat her Doritos. Howie won't have to say anything, but he'll show him real quick what to do. Just lie down. Giles is like, okay, this sounds like a great idea. How exactly does it work? Giles asks. In reality, Mark brings the blade back up with the rope and binds it at a board over nearby that we can see to hold it in place, saying, "A good magician never tells his secrets." Yes, Mark, because as we've noticed all episode, you are not a good magician, so I don't know why you commentating on good magicians never tell a secret, so you might as well start talking. He finishes tying the rope. We catch a glimpse of his hand resting on the wood post by it, exposing a bit of his hand looking scaly, green, and demonic. "Come on," he states, "we haven't got much time, because I'm turning into a fucking demon and I gotta get this fucking brain so I can eat it up." Buffy in the library paces back and forth saying this is ridiculous. They can't just sit and wait for him to come to them. They have to figure out what they're dealing with. Xander still notes that it's the dummy. Buffy is firm on her fucking no, Xander, like it's not the goddamn dummy. Okay, so we ruled out people in the talent show, but this was before they found the brain, Willow adds. So Buffy says that means they probably are still in the show, and Giles doesn't know it. He'd be with them all right now. Xander tries to state that Giles can handle himself. I mean, he is really... He pauses, realizing and finishes his words. Smart. Smart thinking, Xander. We see the library door burst open and Buffy running out screaming Giles' name, the other two running quickly behind her. Giles is seen all strapped into the mechanism, asking Mark, shouldn't it be aimed at my neck, as his head is in the zone of placement for the blade's slicing. Mark slowly lowers the headlock down onto Giles' forehead, saying,
"Oh, this way, your scalp gets sliced off, and your brains just come pouring out."
What exactly is the trick? Giles asks. Trick? Mark asks, pulling the strap tighter onto Giles' chest so he can't move. Mark? Giles calls out. Mark moves over out of sight and over to the wood block that the rope is tied to, raises a hatchet and begins to slice. He continues to hit at the rope, and we see the thread growing slimmer as it slices down to one final strand. As the blade slips slightly lower, Giles looking up at it, gasping in fear. Mark raises the hatchet for one final cut because this is the one that's going to do the deed, but of course Buffy comes running in, charging him, tackling him to the ground. And then we're left there with this just hanging. He goes to get up in the same motion. She sweeps a leg under his and knocks him back down, hopping up to her feet in Slayer fighting stance, fist up. She looks so hot here. He starts to stand, but she kicks him in the face, and when he turns back to her, he growls, and we see his skin is smudged back, exposing more demonic green skin across his cheek, and Buffy just goes, ew, totally grossed out. He punches her down, and then we see the thread finally break itself from the weight, and the blades start to fall at Giles' head. He squints his eyes, preparing for impact, and to die, yelling out as Xander's hand grabs the rope, stopping it, and he pulls it back up. Giles' eyes open, fascinated that he's not brainless or dead. Buffy and Mark continue to fight in the background. Willow runs up to Giles' side, asking where's the key to the lock on the head guard, unstrapping the binds on Giles' chest. Xander kicks the hatchet over to her feet, and Willow begins to chop at the wood surrounding the lock as Giles cries out to please fucking hurry. Buffy slings Mark around like a rag doll, punching him, kicking him, as he falls into his disappearing box that stands behind him. The door smacks shut on him. Buffy steps forward, asking, how do you lock this thing? Give me that lock off that thing from Giles. Where's the key? Get it unlocked. I need to lock this motherfucker in the box. And hopes that they can contain him in said box temporarily, but a full green demonic hand smashes through it out at her. She dodges it, and he breaks the rest of the way out and is no longer marked in human form. He's full green monster mash. He grabs Buffy by the throat, slamming her a few times into the wall, pinning her, now stronger than before. Willow manages to break the lock with the axe and slips it all. Getting Giles out of the line of death, he sits up, unbinding his legs when we look over to the demon Mark with Buffy. As Sid appears onto his back, stabbing at him with that Barbie knife stuck in his hand, screaming out, I found you, I found you. This shit was killing me. This was worse than him attacking Buffy with a knife, because that knife was making stabbing noises, but it was literally not even doing anything. It was just like landing on his like can't even. I'm dead. These people on this show have such access, even in 1997, to some CGI and some other things.
They put no effort into it, looking like he's trying to, I don't know, hit somebody with a fucking popsicle stick. I was like, get out of here.
Literally. The demon distorted lets Buffy go. She takes this opportunity to slam the heel of her hand into his face, knocking him back, punches him, and then deals a roundhouse kick to him. Mark falling back onto the guillotine. Buffy screams for Xander to let go, and he drops the rope. The blade comes down, slicing off the demon's head at the neck as it rolls across the floor. Willow gasps. Giles, panting, states to everyone, I must say your timing is impeccable. Yay, they all save Giles. Sid grabs his knife and stands over the demon's body, Buffy asking what he's doing. Sid stating,
It's not enough. He'll come back. You have to get the heart, then all of this will be over.
Buffy offers that she could do it for him, Sid saying,
I got it. Thanks.
And then he stabs the demon as we hear the sounds reminiscent of vampires being slain. Then we hear a gust of wind as he collapses over the demon. Letting us know that his soul has passed from the dummy back into the ether. Buffy grabs Sid, cradling him in her arms. Turns back to Giles and Willow and Xander holding him. They all look onto her. It's over, she says. As the curtains to the stage draw open and the bright light starts to shine onto them, we see a full audience staring back at the gang on display with this brutal scene's aftermath. They all just stare in shock. We cut to Principal Snyder in the audience, who says, I don't get it. What is it? As the scene fades to black. Well, I guess we know it's not Principal Snyder.
Nope.
The scene doesn't end here.
We do not endeth the episode, because we cut back in to see the audience once more, focusing on Giles and Snyder side by side, watching Buffy, Willow, and Xander's dramatic reading from Oedipus, done horribly, which we will play the scene for you guys now.
O ruler of my country, Oedipus, you see our company around the altar, and I, the priest of Zeus.
Ha ha. They prophesied that I should kill my father, but he is dead and hidden deep in the soil. But surely I must fear my mother's bed.
O Oedipus, Oedipus, unhappy Oedipus, that is all I can call you and all that I ever shall call you.
Darkness and horror of darkness, unfolding, restless, visitant, sped by an ill wind in haste. Madness and stabbing pain and memory of ill deeds I have done.
Xander finishes his messed up, barely remembered portion of the reading. He steps back to stand by Willow in the middle of him, and Buffy as she nudges Willow when it's her turn to speak. But she's just standing there, in shock, petrified. Then she just turns and runs off the stage, leaving Buffy and Xander there. Buffy steps in closer to Xander to fill the gap where Willow once stood, looking into the crowd in awkward horror. We fade to real black, and here endeth the episode. We made it to the end of that. This one is seriously so stupid that you can't look away during the events, and I'm pretty sure Sid stabbing at that demon is going to be the thought I used to produce serotonin when I need it most from now on. But the episode overall, it was definitely surprising. We get another mention of a Slayer from the past and his tale as a demon fighter. I thought that was a pretty cool element that we hear of another Slayer, and that the fact that he knew her. My main like of this episode is the whodunit premise, trying to figure out the killer kind of thing like they do from slasher films like Scream and such. And there were a lot of times in the episode too that Mark was right in front of our face, as I said a little bit earlier, and they were giving clues that he was the killer pretty much the whole episode. Originally watching it, I didn't ever suspect Mark. I didn't really know who it was. I do remember my first time watching this episode because I was 13 or so. I had gotten the DVD box set and I'd never really seen this episode. So I watched it then with Tiffany, and we just died the whole time.
What the fuck?
Me and Tiffany were dying the whole time watching it. That's why I was when we got to this episode, I was having flashbacks. And I was like, oh my God, this is wild. They were giving us clues that he was the killer while trying to red Harris into thinking Morgan might be. And Sid, of course, full spectrum, because everybody wanted Sid to believe that that was the killer, because that's who everybody was turning to. Because why wouldn't a dummy be the killer? He's running around and he's supposed to be inanimate, so that makes sense. Those two even thought that Buffy was the demon, and they saw her whenever she was obviously doing that shit at Morgan's locker we already talked about earlier. I also really liked Willow's use of humor and the fact that she was hella persistent on not being a part of anything, including people watching her. Allison Hannigan as an actress played her so well. I like her little scenes where she's doing the lower tones, when she gets scared and nervous. 10 out of 10 acting. On that subject, though, props to Sarah Michelle Gellar for her scenes one-on-one with Sid that I said earlier. A fucking dummy prop. This poor bitch had to act with a damn dummy. I'm pretty sure never in her life she ever had to again, but whatever. I also wanted to notate that I'm really sad that we didn't get to see Cordelia in the end do her live performance with the Sparklers. They set it up to be some hype, and she was like, I'm going to be so good after fucking Brett and his band that I'm going to blow everyone out of the water. And here we are. We never got to see it. This episode definitely saved on their 2K per slay. I wanted to add that as well, because we did not see a single vampire. We did get the dusting sound whenever he slayed the demon dude, which made me mad because that's the sound that they use for vampires exploding into dust. And I was like, what is happening here?
They're like, it's the sound for murder in general.
Literally. And we got to see the auditorium in the school for this episode too, so it gave us a switch up. We weren't just in the library or just in the hallways at Sunnydale or just chilling in Buffy's room, because we can't ever see any other room in her house right now. But regardless. And we got Principal Snyder, his snide little self, to contend with in the series, now as a clearly placed foe for Buffy and the gang. No more Mr. Nice Guy is what he's getting. And let me just say, I was so glad when I finished the script too, because every time I typed out Morgan's name, it tried to autocorrect and change it to Morganatic for some reason, which was very frustrating. Like literally every time I wrote Morgan. But I was like, what's happening here?
Oh my God.
What do you have for closing thoughts on the episode?
Well, this episode was just too fucking much for words, to be honest with you. I could take nothing seriously. And the parts that I wanted to take seriously were the funniest parts for me, because when Sid was stabbing the thing at the end, I was like, I know this is supposed to be a moment that leads into another moment, because obviously Sid's about to die. But at this point, I'm just like, I can't.
Did you feel bad that Sid died?
I did get kind of sad about it. They do a good job making you have a slight emotional attachment to him because of just the whole dialogue that he exchanges with Buffy, and you get to kind of see his personality and that he has one, and it's not just like this freaky doll that's trying to rip everybody's heart out or something, you know, like you just don't know where it's going. Yeah, or that. AKA he was channeling Xander in the pack.
Literally.
It was a fun episode for sure. I feel like it was another one of those that I'll just consider like they needed to fill some space. They needed to fill their pockets for the next 2K per sleigh. They needed to kill some time. They needed to make us laugh. I don't know. I can't imagine that they, at the end of editing and producing that episode, and they were like, oh, yes, we're so excited it's about to air for the first time. I can't imagine that any one of the people that worked on it were like, this is going to be taken 100% seriously.
At all.
So I appreciate them for what it's worth, and I like that we added the whole Barbie gimmick thing in there, because now I'm never going to see it differently. I'm just going to always picture that hole in Sid's hand with a knife, a fake knife pressed in. You killed his voice, though. I will say that.
I know. I feel like I do really good for stuff like that.
You should look into like voiceover acting.
Yeah, let me do that. That's probably where this is all leading, to voiceover.
Truly, you have a microphone, you got a headset, that's all you need.
Yeah, true. There we go. I'll be getting paid all the monies, and I'll just stay home and record episodes of this and that, and then quit my full-time job, and then I won't be having problems with my body from massage therapy.
Listen, just figured it out for you.
Thanks so much. My calling. It's my chosen status. Stay tuned, everyone. Stay tuned for my announcement in season 5 of Buffy that I have a new job. So, throwing out there, for metaphor, I do have some metaphor for this, but it ties in with our season finale. So I'm going to cycle back there and wrap that all up together.
My metaphor is that Brandon must be claustrophobic because he gets the weekly wigs from Sid's legs being compacted or something.
That's not even my weekly wigs, but it currently has to be. It didn't start bothering me until it did when I was watching it, but I didn't commentate on it. It just out of sight, out of mind, because I was typing and writing and had to like keep going. So it didn't process. But this time reading it through, I remembered that like I don't like the fact that happens, and I commented on it.
Like his poor legs. You're like, I feel like he can't breathe in there.
Yeah. Well, as we did last episode, I did find some fun facts that I wanted to share for the episode. Nicholas Brendan, whenever he does that red rum thing, that was an ad lib that he threw in, and they decided to keep it in the final cut, which was cool. Also, Allison Hannigan ad-libbed Willow running off the stage in the end, and they thought that was the perfect way to do that scene, so they kept that in the final take as well. Like, that wasn't even in the script, that Willow was supposed to run off the stage. Allison did that as a funny, like, haha moment, and then they were like, no, that's perfect. Like, we're keeping that. So I like that that's canon for that. I'm like, Sarah Michelle Gellar, she admitted to having nightmares about dummies after filming this episode for, like, a hot minute.
Dang.
I would too, bitch.
Yeah.
For the second time, we see Cordelia as she did in Teacher's Pet when Dr. G died. Rest in peace, Dr. G. Shout out to you. Go into a melodramatic, self-absorbed mourning process for the dancer who was killed. Special note to Cordelia having dialed down from the overly rude bitch we saw in the first few episodes as well. She's not seemingly as overly like harsh as she was. It seems like Cordelia's a little a little more pleasant to be around these days. She's not quite so like, Willow, why the fuck are you drinking from my water fountain?
Even though she was very rude and insulted Buffy. So
yeah,
there is that.
all the things. Also, Charisma Carpenter, she said in an interview that the writers purposely made her a singer in the show because they knew that she couldn't sing. And she comments in a quote saying, I was walking up to the production office and Joss Whedon stopped me and he said, hey, by the way, can you sing? And I said, no, but I can dance. And he said, good. And I didn't know if that meant good that you can dance or good that you can't sing. And well, I sure found out. And that was her statement. I was like,
dang,
damn, they fucked you up. I had a fact about Armin Shimmerman. He originally auditioned for the role of Principal Flutie and didn't get the role, but he lost the role to Ken Lerner, who played Principal Flutie. And he was actually good friends with him. He knew him beforehand. They were like good actor friends or whatever. And he originally started watching Buffy because he found out that his friend Kenny was going to be on the show. So he had been watching the start of the series. So he was already familiar with it. And later they called him back to offer him the role of Snyder. And he was like, I thought my friend Kenny was playing the principal. And they were like, oh yeah, we killed him. Like just simple. And he was like, oh, but it was like of light humor. They were like, no, it's cool. We did it this way. It's really funny. He was okay with it. He's not sad that he lost his job. He's not poor. His kids are still going to eat. It's whatever. You're now the principal. They're like, this is great. But I thought it was cool. This episode is the first and only time the show continues during the credits, like after the credits roll, like it comes back in. This is the only time we ever see that happening. Apparently when Buffy... Ever. Like we never end the episode and then have the credits start to come up and then go back into it with the credits rolling beside like other stuff going on. This is the only time that happened.
Wow, that's cool.
Apparently when Buffy is looking for Morgan and walks under the stage, there is a picture of Moloch on the wall behind her on the door. I looked at it and it's like, it's not spot on Moloch and it's not a screen grab from the thing, but it's a demon on a poster that looks very much, it's in black and white, but it looks very similar and has the same twisty horns and stuff as Moloch. So not robot Moloch, regular Moloch. Praise. I wrote in here too that Sid is a playable character in a level on the second Buffy game, Chaos Bleeds, and it's my least favorite level to play in the video game because he's just really annoying. All he does is like run forward and does this rotative like punching fist that almost like a cycle, like you're pedaling a bike but with his fist, and it's just, he's short, so he can only hit the vampire's legs, and then when he stakes the vampires, he has to hop up in the air and stick them and then fall back down. It's just, it works really good, and the game has great mechanics, but it's so comical and stupid. But I hate the level of him because it's just frustrating to get through. He'd be trying to hop up on stuff, and he's so little, and if you miss it just the right way, you like got to start all over. Like it's just annoying.
I love that they made you really endure the struggle as a dummy. That's the greatest.
They did, but I will say, because you don't know really the storyline from the video game, but I thought it was interesting because in the video game they give the story that apparently after his demon slay in this episode, his soul got trapped by an entity that I can't mention because it comes up later in the series that they revisit in the video game. And he's been stuck in this alternate universe, like he in the doll's body still. Shit. So he never actually went on to a peaceful afterlife. Of course, that's just canon for like the video games. That's not canon for like the series. So in real life in the show, we can expect that he is living a blissful afterlife. But in my mindset, I like to think that he's out there surrounded by hot as fuck of age babes living that most blissful afterlife. Anyways,
good point.
Moving on to our final segment, which I've decided officially to call Final Slays, because I've been struggling since the beginning to figure out what to call this section for our episode. I'd be like, all right, let's get into our fun stuff, blah, blah, blah. Like, but now I got fun facts, so I didn't want to do that. So now when I say, let's get into our final slays, that's where we'll be wrapping up and clarifying our Shining Slayer, our quote for the episodes, and Courtney will be giving her Slayer predictions if and when we have them. And obviously, if I haven't already just stated it in my little wrap up, our weekly things. So that being said, let's get into our final slays.
The final slays.
You got to do that every time now.
All right, great. I will.
And you got to come in with the at the end.
All right, great. Let's hope we remember that. It'll be like, trust your inner guide, surrender to the universe.
Exactly.
And manifest a magical as fuck vampire slayer.
Yes. Trust your inner Italian. Love your inner Italian.
Oh, I actually meant to say that in last episode
You
when
did.
it opened up with the Italian scene or the,
In Italy,
like, you know what I'm talking
1408.
about. And I wanted to be like, surrender to your Italian, love your inner Italian, trust your inner Italian, because they were like in the Italian Renaissance or whatever. I was like, what the fuck?
You did make a comment in the very end of the episode, and you were like, trust, just like out of nowhere, trust your inner Italian. And I was like, We're trying to close out the episode, you saying that shit, and I was dead.
I snuck it in there.
All right, great. Well, final slays. What's your quote from the episode?
So my quote and my weekly wigs are one and the same,
Just like last
which is when Sid literally disgustingly says, once you go wood, there's nothing as good or something like that. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And then the fact that later on, 37 minutes later, you follow it up talking about his 2-inch wooden penis. I was like, I can't feel anything.
I did say that at the end of the episode, didn't I?
So yeah, that's that.
My quote, I chose Willow again because I chose her last episode, I do believe, as well. It was whenever she was in the hallway in the beginning and they had just found Emily's dead body and the heart and all that stuff. And she's like talking about the killers and she's like, it could be anyone. It could be me. And then she's like,
I laughed
it's not though. That's going to be my quote for this one.
One of my favorite things about this particular episode is that they doubled down on the theme of Willow being smart, and in the heat of that moment, Willow's being stupid and missing the entire point. And then, like you just said, your quote is her missing the entire point and just being obliviously dumb. And I'm just like, but then we follow it up at the end with like basically trying to classify her as the smartest person in the entire school, but she's been stupid all episode.
But then she acts stupid in that moment too. She's like, who's the smartest person? And Xander's like, give me the square root of this. Poor Willow. Well, we won't be awarding Shining Slayer to her. Who would you say Shining Slayer should be then?
Honestly, I put Xander because he's the one who figured out that Giles was actually the smart person that everyone was referencing.
Nice. Mine is our gang coming together to save Giles, or our trio.
Yeah.
I do have a first, second, and third. Since it's the talent show, we got to have awarding placements for Shining Slayer. First place, we give it to Xander for realizing Giles is the one in danger and then physically saving Giles's head because he catches that rope. Second place, we give to Buffy for killing the demon and helping Sid move on to his afterlife. And then in third place, we have Willow for breaking the lock and getting Giles free. It was an effort on all parts.
It was. That's true.
Weekly wigs for me was Sid. Funny, but the ultimate wig was most of the episode, and especially his moment whenever he made the comment when he was like, nubile. I was just like, eh. But now I have to change my weekly wigs so every time his legs were folded up and put in the box. I'm like, no, just let his little legs pitter-pat around. He needs to stretch. You know he does yoga when he gets out that box. Like, he's like, hold on, I got to do my 15 minutes.
He's doing his lunges.
Yeah, he's fucking lunges. His warrior pose. I wrote it here as a joke because of our text message thread that we had going on when we were talking about the episode. I made the comment that said Sid comes back in season 4 of the episode where we find out Buffy's zodiac sign and he asked for her hand in marriage.
I thought for some reason you'd be like, I predict that Sid's going to be right there with his face in your window tonight while you're sleeping and you'll be hearing pitter patters.
No, that'd be great if you did.
You're like, I let him in my window.
Listen, what a fucking episode.
Also, do you think that Buffy was like, I can help you when she was like offering to stab the thing at the end because she just was like, this poor homie cannot stab anything with his poor Barbie hand, like, and a popsicle stick. Like, let me do it. I got my steak. I can do it full force in a second.
True. He did it, though. He did get the knife in there. I don't know how they made that work.
Or did he? And maybe since he didn't do it fully, that's why in the video game, he's stuck in an alternate universe.
My God, that's exactly it. Right,
he didn't fully kill him.
You've cracked the code. All right. Well, what an episode, man. That was a fun time for sure. I had fun recording that one, to be quite honest. But thank you guys.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you guys for listening once again to our discussion and walkthrough. I truly hope this one made you laugh and you enjoyed everything presented for this one. Write in and let us know what you think about the absurdity that is the puppet show. What are your favorite parts? Who your Shining Slayer is? And what gave you the weekly wigs? And don't forget, as it's also in the outro to every episode, we would like to give a shout out to one person who writes in about this or past episodes. Let us know what you think and what you're enjoying about Buffy or the podcast. Feel free to leave us a review and comment on the platforms you're listening to on as well. I feel we're getting better and in our groove as we're getting deeper into our content episodes. I'm going to let y'all know that I am thoroughly enjoying myself, my time with Courtney here, and creating this content for you guys to be listening to. But thank you guys for being here. And that being said, We'll be back next week to get into episode 10, Nightmares. I'm stoked for Courtney to see this one because it's got a whole lot going on and it's serving us Nightmare on Elm Street vibes with the dreams becoming reality realness.
Hopefully Buffy's mom's not dreaming about the bills in that one.
Oh, God. That's funny, though. Okay, we'll talk about that then, actually. I'm going to save that for then. We will have a lot to talk about, but I look forward to it, and we will catch you guys then. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Buffy on Revamped. Remember to join us next week for a new episode release as we continue our journey through Sunnydale. We also would like to hear from you, so share your thoughts. Discuss with us your perspectives on this or previous week's episodes by following us on Instagram and sending us a DM at revamped_rewatch podcast.
Or by emailing us at revampedrewatchpod@gmail.com. Additionally, we will be choosing one of your messages to shout out in an upcoming episode release. And don't forget, if you're looking for a friend and some unsolicited advice for the times when life feels out of orbit, go follow Life in Retrograde Podcast on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
Until next time, the Earth is definitely doomed.
This podcast is dedicated to the Buffyverse, to its fans, and my sister, Tiffany Dawn Pearson.